So one thing I thought would be fun today is to recreate a coding agent for Scratch. And the reason why I thought about doing this is there's a few reasons. So one, if you're familiar, I actually created a few these coding agents even before like all the craziness that that we see today. But some of my most popular are Cloud Engineer, which was sort of like the first one. There was this like agentic coding agent with tools, but it could also sort of like run things in the loop. And they all run in the terminals, this coding agent, which is like what we're gonna build today. And the other one is also really popular is like this DeepSeek Engineer. And I also built, O1 Engineer when O1 was released. And they're all sort of different, those coding agents. For example, the reason why O1 Engineer at the time was different is because O1, when it came to the market, didn't support function calling. And so because of that, I actually, create some like interesting ideas around how to extract files from the model, for example, by using JSON mode and then sort of like parsing whatever file the model was created. But now, basically every model has tool access, which makes it much easier for, any sort of like agentic behavior to create that type of agent. The other thing I think it's interesting is that once you start creating a coding agent, you actually start seeing not only a lot of like, what's interesting about creating those AI experiences, but also like sort of, the limitation that those models have, but also like their strength. So I think like it's a really good exercise to understand how to create interesting AI pipelines. Because, if you're able to create a good coding agent, you're basically able to do any sort of experience you want to, right? From something like Manus to something like deep research and so on. And the other interesting thing I thought, we're actually going to create this coding agent using AI itself. And I'm going to show you like, what is the sort of like step-by-step I take once I go into this process. And at the end, if everything works out, we're going to have this like coding agent that runs into the terminal and, is able to call function calling and, return files or edit files and a bunch of other stuff. And we're just going to go through all that process basically. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm actually going to change this to Sonnet. For this one, we don't need Sonnet Max. We can just use like the regular Sonnet. And one thing I did here, I went ahead and I download all the sort of like, instruction from the OpenAI API to some basic understanding of how to use the OpenAI API. And the reason why we're going to use the OpenAI API for now is because, they're building a way that then if you want to change your model, or if you want to use OpenRoo, or if you want to use Gemini, it's really easy to build with the OpenAI API and then sort of like scale it to something else. And we're going to use Python. And so you can see here, I have like a few instructions. So I have, the basic instruction, like how the API are called. I have like streaming, and I have vision, function calling, and image generation in this case as well. And so the reason why we need this is because what we're going to do first, we're going to tell the model how to, what we're going to code and like understanding. And I think like a mistake that a lot of people do is that they feed the model with too much context. And then basically what happened is that you end up having this thing where, the model doesn't really understand what you're trying to do, and you're trying to ask too many things at the same time. And then because of that, you end up with something that doesn't work, right? And so I'm actually going to show you the step-by-step how I build something using instructions and using documentation, right? So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to say, hey, learn how to use the OpenAI API from this file, right? So we're going to do that. And so now it's going to learn basically, how to create these, how to use the OpenAI API based on this information. It's picking up all the different stuff. And the other thing we're going to do, we're actually going to build this step by step, right? So the first thing I'm going to ask now, I'm going to say, awesome. Okay, awesome. Now also learn how to use streaming, So we're going to take that and build AI assistant that I can chat with in the terminal that uses streaming before creating the file, create a detail plan. And the reason why I do this is because what actually might happen is that you start to see like what the model wants to do, right? So it creates a plan. And then now you can say, okay, cool, I actually want to accept this plan. So let's see what it's gonna do. So okay, it's gonna initiate the OpenAI API. It's gonna build the, so he's asking to install this. I'm gonna skip this because already, I wanna show you how I did this kind of stuff, but I'm just gonna skip this for a second. Okay, so it's creating this chat assistant. And in the meantime, it's gonna do that. What actually I'm gonna do, I'm gonna create a virtual environment for this space so that anything we install is in this virtual environment. And I use UV because it's just like so good. Okay, so let's see. He has created this stuff. All right, chat assistant. Okay, so let's see. So it's already importing the env by lot.env, which is great. And then let's see. It's using OpenAI. It's using like some terminal colors. And then he's using the right model, which is 4.1, which is great. We didn't even have to say that, which is awesome. Now I'm gonna stop the video for a second so I can move my API into this so we can actually, I might even need to stop this. Let's see. I'm just gonna like drag and drop this. Hopefully it doesn't open the file. It did open the file, so I'm gonna, okay. Awesome, so we have our system now. Let's see if this works. So what I'm gonna do, because I'm running UV, I'm gonna say UV run this, and I have to install, oh, of course, I forgot to install the requirement. Let's see. Actually, I'm gonna create this file, but I'm going to, actually, you know what? I'm just gonna do this. UV, because it's not a lot, so I don't have to create a file. Install, so it's OpenAI, and then Python.mv, and then Colorama. Let's see. Okay, so now we can try this again. And let's see. Okay, so let's see. Hello. So see if we can stream the messages. Awesome. Cool. How are you? My name is Pietro. So let's just see if there's also memory in the chat. My name is Pietro. Okay, and then I'm gonna say, what is my name? Okay, cool. So we also have chat memory. Awesome. Now, the next step, what is the next step here? The next step now is actually building the ability for this model for this script to have function calling. So I just interrupt this so we can like close it and have more space here. Okay, so I'm gonna say, awesome. Now, what I want is to add function calling, and we're going to put all our tools into a tools folder. So it's much easier to then create those tools inside these folders and then having the assistant basically picking those stuff up, right? We're going to create a tool folder, and learn how to use function calling from, and then we're gonna give it the function calling documentation, right? And I'm gonna say before create any file, plan the changes, and then I have a quick keyboard shortcut here. If I say this command, it said this exactly. Say, actually imagine you're writing instruction for a junior developer to work on this. Can you write something extremely clear? So basically, we're kind of like doubling down on the model and saying, actually, you know what? You're learning how to use function calling, but don't make the changes directly. I want you to, if you were to explain this change to a junior developer, how would you explain those changes, basically? And so now, it's basically say like, how we need to implement this stuff. So I'm gonna read this and see if okay, so what it's gonna do first is gonna create a tool folder, right? So I'm actually gonna run this. So we actually have created the tool folder, and he's gonna create a bunch of files, and he's also gonna create like a test weather tool, so we can actually test if the tool work, and he's still gonna stream the response. I'm gonna say, okay, great plan, I like this, implement it. And so now he's going to basically implement this plan that we just saw. I already ran this before, so I can skip this. Okay, so in the tool folder, it basically created this first file, and we actually need this because this would be sort of like the index of all the tools that we're creating. And so here, then we're going to create tools like, you know, the create file tool or the reading file tool and a bunch of other stuff. And so one by one, we're going to start building those tools, and then basically we're going to get our coding agent, like a very primordial coding agent. There's a bunch of things that go into a coding agent. When you think about creating coding agents, or agent for the matter, there's three components. There's the model that you're using, the context that you give in this model. So a lot of the engineering solution is actually around how you give the context. Like, is the model going to read all the file? Is the model going to read just some part of the file? Or how much context are you getting each time? And then there is like the third element, which is like how this model is outputting. Like, what is the model outputting? Is outputting text? Is outputting a file? Is outputting images, right? And so those are the kind of stuff. And so once you start seeing these like three blocks, this basically applies everywhere else, right? And then an agent, the best definition I have of an agent, and I actually gave a talk in Italy recently, the best definition I have of an agent is nothing else that an LLM with access to tools in a loop in a defined environment, right? And so, for example, you can imagine something like Operator, the defined environment is being online, right? If you're using Cursor, the defined environment is the IDE, right? And this is like a stuff where I think, like, you know, we tend to complicate things so much by calling this stuff like these scary names, but in reality, those things are like pretty easy once you start seeing like these building blocks. And then once you have the building blocks, stuff gets like much better. Okay, so I'm gonna accept this, and let's see. Okay, so now he had in the prompt that he has access to tools. This is important, of course. Okay, actually give it a few tools. Give it although the tool should let's see, give it the search knowledge tool, which is interesting, and then you give it like a weather tool. Okay, let's like test if this thing works first. I'm gonna run this again, and actually this is the wrong one. Okay, UV. What's happening here? Why I can type in this? UV run this. I need to start the request. Okay, UV pip and UV pip install request. Okay, UV run. I'm gonna copy this. Okay, so let's see. What is the weather? I don't think he's using any API for the weather. Let me just stick the tool. Oh, actually, he's using some API, but I don't know if those are open. Oh, open. Okay, let's see. What is the weather in New York City? Okay, so now we got an error, right? Because there's something going on with the tool, right? And so this is very easy to fix. So what you want to see is like, hey, I got this error. Also, I want to remove this basic thing and actually add this our main file as the context, which is chat assistant. So hey, I got this error. Fix it, and I'm gonna say read again the API function calling. Okay, so now it's basically he got the error. There's some invalid parameter. So he probably what happened is like he added an extra parameter in the search knowledge tool, I guess. And I think this is about OpenAI where let's see, strict true is enabled, all fields must be okay. For OpenAI API, the tool is either required or no, basically, right? And so that was the error that we're getting. Okay, let's see. All right, let's run this again. I'm gonna exit out. What is the weather in New York City? let's try this again. What is the weather in New York City? Okay. Well, so the tool run, right? But of course, it doesn't have access to the API, and therefore, because of that, is failing, right? But it did run the tool. And so what we're gonna do now, we know that we have the system is working, basically, right? So what we're gonna do now, what we're gonna say is, okay, so now build a file reader tool in this folder, in the tool folders, in the tools folder. And this file reader should take a file path and basically let the model read it, and should also support multiple path, not just one, because you want to do, you're going to be able to say, okay, this path, and reread the function calling documentation so that so you know what you're doing, basically, how to build it. And so now we're starting to get into the realms of like, okay, now we actually build in the tools that a coding agent needs. And generally, what a coding agent needs is a reading tool, a file reading tool, and then you need something to create a file, right? And then you need something to edit a file. And sometimes, you have agents that are able to run, a console command in a sandbox, but we're not going to do that for the sake of this video because it takes too long. But the idea is basically the same. So what I show you right now, then you can just take it and scale it. Of course, specifically in the reading file, there's a lot of things you actually need to consider once you bring something like this in production. One of the things like security, right? Right now I'm doing this very quickly, but you can imagine it things like, path cleaners and like making sure like the model doesn't access some specific path of your computer. But for this case, we're just gonna keep it like kind of like fast and quick. But once you build in this stuff for production, you have to consider a bunch of security aspects that, right now we're not considering because we're just kind of like show you like how to build a coding agent basically from scratch with a very basic. Okay, let me close this again and I'm gonna run it and code. So let's see if the coding agent works. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna take this path and I'm gonna say, okay, read this. And so if it's gonna call the tool, let's see. Actually, this is funny. So, oh yeah, it did read it. Okay, refile as well. Okay, so it took that as a. Let me see what it means. It did for the. Yeah, it used the reading file. Let me see. Did you use the read file tool? Yeah. Okay. Wow, this is so fast. I almost got like, I guess it almost felt like it converted the path into text and then feed it. But I guess that works as well. Let me just try it again. I was like, okay, I want to say read this. I want to start with the multipath. Now read this and this. Let's see if they both work. Okay, I guess this also works. I guess it's just showing us the tool input, by the way. This is the console of the tool input, right? And so now actually, yeah, so it's actually reading the file. That's awesome. Okay. I guess GPT-4.1 is so fast that I assume something went wrong, but the tool call is actually working. It's doing like this extra thing of actually showing us what gets into the input. And we can go into the console here and say, hey, actually, you know what, hide any file input. I don't care about that. All I care is the whatever, the output, basically. Okay, awesome. Now the next thing is to create file tool. This will create a file or multiple files. And then I'm gonna say, I have this thing which is think step by step, take a deep breath, repeat the question, yada yada. And so now, at this point, this instance of Cloud has a pretty good idea of how to build a tool. So it should actually work pretty well. So let's see, now it's building the file writer tool. And I'm gonna close this so that we can actually try that too. Awesome. And so if you look at the, once I accept this, I'm gonna show you like what the create file looks like, but it should be something like, you decide the path, you decide the name, and then you decide the content basically. Because when you think about tools are just nothing that, like some function parameters that the model gets in and then gets used to resolve that function. Like if you look at the reading tool, it takes a path and then it just sends the content basically, right? Okay, so Claude is always at this extra step. Like it's always is fixing the readme. It's always eager to help you to a fault sometimes, but it's just the way that the model is. Okay, so it fixed our readme too. And by the way, everything that I'm creating is gonna be on GitHub too, so you can use it as well. All right, so let's see the file writer tool they create. Okay, create one or multiple files. So it takes the file path. Okay, and it takes like the main directory and then the content. Okay, cool. Let's see if this works. And I'm gonna say, okay, create a file. Make a txt with some jokes about being an AI. So that one gives us an error. So there's some missing property for the tool parameter. So I'm gonna put it back here and I'm gonna say, fix this, reread function calling. So it has that knowledge back. Okay, I guess we might get the same error we were getting before because it's using false instead of null, but let's see. Create a txt file with jokes about AI. Okay, let's see if this time it works. Still interesting. Still getting this. Reread function calling, and I want to say things step by step. I also think like I make the tool a little harder by asking to create one and multiple. I think if I just asked to create like a single file right away, it would have been easier, but we do need multiple tools. So, sorry, multiple writing. So let's see if this fixes it. Okay. Where's the... Okay, seems like it's working right now. Okay, so we created AI jokes, which is right here. All right, so now we have the creation file. And so now it gets really interesting. I can say like, okay, make a game of snake all in one index file. Yeah, like make it fun with some cool colors, I don't know. Okay, so now let's see, it's gonna, The funny thing about GPT-4.1 is something that I noticed is like sometimes when he runs tool, it doesn't say anything. He just runs the tool. So it won't say like, oh, I'm about to run this tool like most of the models do. He just goes and runs the tool, and then you kind of get to see the results after, basically. There's like a thing I could do here. I could ask to actually add something in the console that says, when the tool is being called, like show that like, this tool is being called. Here we kind of have to wait at the end of the tool to get the results, which is fine as well. It's just about, like how do you like to do things? Okay, so we created this game. Let's see if this works. All right, let's see. There we go. Here's our snake game with the cool colors. Actually, this game feels really good. Like the speed and all of that feels really good. Okay, awesome. So the one thing I want to add now is actually the edit tool. And so this is where people kind of like get a little lost. So for this, I'm actually going to start a new chat. And what I'm going to do, OpenAI actually released this like awesome guide around the agents and tool agents, and I think it was something about there was a tool that actually create file, and there was like this like string and replace, but I guess we can just build it from scratch. But they have a really good example of how to do a string and replace tool. Like ultimately, it's like a very easy thing to do, but it's actually it's more about like implementing the changes for that tool that it's actually kind of hard, or like make the tool work really well. That's the hardest part. But okay, so for this one, I'm actually going to use Sonnet Max because it gets a little more complicated. And so what I'm going to say is like, okay, first read this project. We created an agent that has tool access using OpenAI API, and we so read the chat assistant and the tools we created in tools, and how to use function calling. So we're basically just giving like a full refresh of what we've done. The reason why I started a new chat is that after a while, when you chat to a model and you like kind of like approaching the context limit, it starts to get a little weird. That's why I think we're still kind of getting a bunch of errors at the end there. And also it's tough with things like cursor, where like you actually like they do something to optimize the context. So like you don't really know like when you hit the maximum context and whatnot. But now also this file is like this project is like pretty small, so it's not like a lot of files. Cool. Okay, so what we're gonna do next? Okay, so what we are going to do next is to create an edit tool for files that will use a string search and replace approach. We could have also used diff for this, but I kind of like the string and replace for this particular demo because it shows like the concept like really well. The user should tell the AI what to change in a file, and the AI will send the instructions plus the string to find and replace. And then I'm gonna actually use my plan quick things. I'm gonna say actually, if you were telling a junior engineer how to implement this, how would you implement it, right? And so now it's kind of like, taking all the parameters for this. We might get some error when we first run it because it's, we kind of clean all the context. So there must be something that it doesn't know. But, okay, so now it's just building this plan. Okay, so it also had this thing where like, it created an auto backup of the original file. So in case something goes wrong, you always have a backup. Okay, cool. Implement this. And it's funny because now I think I have such a touch for this kind of stuff. But when I started building Cloud Engineer, this thing was like Wild West. There was no knowledge, there was no tools, there was no like, it was a lot of like, kind of like try and error. Like I remember like when I built the version 2 of Cloud Engineer, the one with like the agents and the loop and like all that kind of stuff, it was just like, it took me like so long to kind of figure out like what was the best way to do it. Like, and so what you're seeing here is also sort of like the summary and the compressed knowledge of me having done this so many times. Because when I look at like how long I've been recording, this is say 30 minutes now, but like, you know, the amount of time I built these coding agents, and now for me to have this feeling that, you know, it's just so easy now to do stuff like that. Like we really live in like an amazing time that, you know, you can just use AI to build coding agents. Like you're using coding agent to build more coding agent basically. Okay, let's see. So we have the file editor. Okay, so as argument, he has the path, the string to change, the replace, and then he creates a backup. All right. I don't know if I want the create backup. Let me see how it's creating that. Okay, it's just, okay, there's no like really an AI feature there. It's just copy paste. Okay, cool. All right, so, and what we're gonna do, we're gonna test it on this game because it's very visual to see. So this thing has like this like blue background basically, right? So what I'm gonna say, I'm gonna run this assistant. What happened? Okay. See, I know there must be some schema missing, but I'm gonna say, okay, using the edit tool, edit this game to have the background in black, right? Behind the game. Okay, but something's happening. Okay, so I'm gonna say, got this error, please fix it, reread the function calling API and look how the other tools are built to avoid that, right? And so that's sort of like what I predicted originally. I was like, okay, because I'm gonna create a new chat, it's gonna get confused. There's some parameters that it doesn't know. Like it's always this, honestly. It's always this thing that it must be set on false, that we don't need null and like that kind of stuff. And you know, like as the model get bigger context and better memory, this thing won't happen as much, but unfortunately it just happens right now. Okay, I'm gonna copy this so that, okay, chat, run this again. Let's see, okay, so, oh, you already did it? Holy shit, that was so fast. What the heck? That was crazy. That was crazy. I didn't even notice it. Oh my God, that was so fast. Does the game still work? Oh my God, yes. Okay, so so I'm gonna say change the snake so that each block is variation of green, because right now it's doing this like, you know, rainbow kind of thing. Okay, I would replace. Okay, let's proceed. The cool thing is that I didn't even talk. So this is what you get this like really interesting thing, right? I didn't tell him to use the read file first. Like nowhere in the file it says that, right? But it kind of, oh, maybe, let me see. Check if file. No, we only have check if file exist. Oh, okay. As part of the editor, actually does have a read file. Okay, that's cool. So this is the kind of stuff that I would have done like when I was building coding agent. I'd be like, okay, you know, make sure that you read the file first. But here, Cloud was smart enough to basically add that as part of the tool. So let's see. Let me refresh this. Let's start the game. And it say it did change stuff, but it did change something though. The result, the string was, oh, it didn't find the string. Try again. Let's see. But I'm shocked how quickly. Let's see. Yeah, that's Now they're all tones of green. It still does this weird sort of like rainbow thing, but they all get to be green at least. Wow, this is so cool. Awesome. Well, this is how you build a coding agent from scratch. We took us 35 minutes. I think like I feel like if I didn't change the last time the model, we probably would avoid the last parameter error there. But this is pretty impressive. As you can see, I was so impressed about how quickly the edit happened there. But you can see like, why like some of the stuff are so crazy, right? Because like now you have those companies that are worth like billions of dollars, right? But I think it's important to understand how to create those tools, and because this is a really interesting pipeline. Now I could go and I can say like, okay, generate images or edit images and stuff like that. So, and by the way, this is something I'm gonna start doing more often. Like I like having Sunday as the day where I just like post about fun stuff like this, like tutorial, because during the week I'm like so busy with the new company that I'm starting, which by the way is amazing. I'm very excited to have that tool out. I think a lot of people are gonna love that. Well, thank you.